This is looking at the Vernon Scannell poem, Hide and Seek, and it assumes that you first of all read the poem and had some ideas about it, and that you've got a copy that you can annotate or kind of add to your annotation that you've already done. So first of all, going to look at the title, and the idea of hide and seek is based on a childhood game where usually a group of children will hide, one person's the seeker and is trying to find those hidden players, and as people get found, the group of seekers grows. Now, with this particular poem, you seem to have just one child hiding and a group of seekers from the start, but it's not entirely clear. But we can talk about, the connotations of childhood and innocence and playfulness and kind of enjoyment of the natural world, at least initially. The second element is arguably psychological, that Scannell's poetry a lot of the time takes a situation and it's something that seems kind of quite familiar, quite open, or that it tells a surface story, but then when you look deeper, it actually has a kind of slightly darker psychological meaning. If you want to know what I mean, go and look up a poem called A Case of Murder, which is quite frankly horrible, but psychologically really interesting. For this one, we have the idea that the child or the speaker, or even kind of you as the reader, because it's written in second person, you are the one who's hiding, or you are the one who is kind of trying to shelter or isolate yourself or withdraw. And then what happens when you want to come back? Well, everybody's gone. So we can look at kind of how that pans out as we go through. So if you look at the story superficially, it's using the idea of a child who's hiding in a tool shed from all of their friends and can hear kind of various passes round the hiding place that friends are making, but then they go away. They think they're going to kind of win this game of hide and seek and it's going to be great, but then they realize they haven't heard any noises for ages and come out to discover it's got dark and everybody else has gone home. If you want a kind of secondary layer, you could say that Scannell uses this game of hide and seek to potentially explore kind of psychological withdrawal and psychological isolation in terms of what happens when an individual chooses to isolate themselves and then in the fullness of time chooses to come back to society. How do people react? There is this idea of loneliness and isolation and alienation in the poem. So if we go through it kind of line by line, we've got call out, call loud. So I've kind of put down there, we've got this anaphora, this message to the others, this signal or instruction that, you're going to shout, I'm ready, come and find me. Using direct speech, 2 imperatives. And it is an instruction to draw attention to yourself, come and find me. It's a challenge to the world. We've got the caesura here, and we've got the end stop, the use of direct speech, giving this childlike and excited opening to the poem. There is a challenge issued to the world to kind of come and get me, come and find me. We then move to the second line where the sacks in the tool shed smell like the seaside, and this simile you would normally associate with excitement. The seaside is somewhere of kind of energy and vibrancy and kind of having a lovely time, and it is a treat. Whereas actually here, there is the underlying kind of darkness to it, if you like. The seaside is also somewhere that can be quite dangerous, that can be, full of sort of hidden jeopardy. And rather than being a kind of open, wonderful sort of sunny place where everybody's having fun together, we've only got the smell of the darkness. We've got sacks and a tool shed, and we've got this kind of end stop here where the kind of reality is intruding into kind of thoughts of, okay, this is quite exciting. So right from the beginning, we've got this idea that this could all go wrong. We then kind of begin to realize that the speaker here is addressing the reader in the second person. So this kind of style is slightly odd in terms of the atmosphere it establishes, because the reader is put in the position of danger, of isolation, of excitement, of threat, depending where we are in the poem. But you're also the one being given the instructions, and you're also the one who is listening to this insight that the speaker has to the way you feel and the situation you're in. So they'll never find you in this salty dark. We have this plural they, that anonymous pronoun. Kind of normally, it's one seeker versus lots of kind of hiders, but here this plural, they're anonymous, and it's lots of people against one. That actually says lots v one. Okay, so they'll never find you in this salty dark. And straight away, you have this kind of sensory imagery. We're in the blackness of the shed. And salty is both evocative of the seaside, but also that idea of tension and sweat and, kind of almost kind of licking your lips and feeling that, you sweated there through nervousness, maybe. So they'll never find you proves to be kind of slightly foreboding. There's a little bit of foreshadowing. They're not going to find you. And if we're going to read that kind of psychological idea, salty dark could well be, crying in the dark. If you are kind of isolating yourself, if you feel alone, nobody can get you, or nobody can connect with you if you've isolated yourself in that way. And then there's the warning, but be careful that your feet aren't sticking out. Have you left anything there? Have you left any telltale signs that might allow them to come and get you? And so far, all of our lines have been end stopped, these series of instructions and series of kind of pauses. It's kind of using quite colloquial, quite everyday language as well. Most of it is kind of largely monosyllabic. Line 5, wiser not to risk another shout. Again, just increasing that level of jeopardy, of danger in there, the idea that another shout would be a risk. And the atmosphere continues to darken as the focus changes from the hiding place to the discomfort and the endurance of the floor is cold, and there's that caesura there. This is the reality of what you've done, of where you've hidden yourself, be it kind of literally in this game of hide and seek, or psychologically and metaphorically in a kind of other reading of the poem. And they'll probably be searching the bushes near the swing. So this enjambment, they'll probably be searching the bushes near the swing, gives that impression of them kind of looking everywhere. But we also have this white space. They'll probably be searching where, that line break kind of leaves it slightly open. Again, we have the anonymous they. And the idea of probably, you can't guarantee they're looking for you. That idea of, even then at the start of the poem, there's no kind of connection really between the child who's hiding and those who are looking for them. He can't guarantee that he's being looked for, but they'll probably be searching the bushes near the swing. Whatever happens, and again, that idea of that enjambment, that line break, leaving it open, creating that sense of risk. Whatever happens, you mustn't sneeze when they come prowling in. Now, there's a couple of things there. The modal verb, you mustn't, it's implying that kind of, again, level of risk, level of danger. And the connotations of the prowling puts the kind of hiders now in the view of hunters, and therefore implicitly you or the child is the prey. So there is this element of risk, an element of danger for them looking for you. And here they are, okay, starting with a conjunction, that kind of suddenness of their arrival, the caesura kind of announcing them. But then we get this sibilance, this whispering, so hushed. And again, the kind of juxtaposition of the familiarity of the game. You've never heard them sound so hushed before, as in we've played this game before, but there is something unnervingly different this time round. They have never been like this before. Now, the poem form and structure-wise is in iambic pentameter, and here its heartbeat style rhythm becomes even more pronounced in terms of don't breathe, don't move, stay dumb. And you have that triple of imperatives, or the tricolon of imperatives, and the caesura and the again, the monosyllabic kind of ideas there of, you know, the urgency and the risk and the kind of severity of what's going on. Hide in your blindness is an interesting line. Okay, you've got the assonance there, the on the eye, but this blindness is now not literal in the sense that the child is blind, as in medically can't see, but is in the dark. So, you know, cannot see what the people outside are doing. But also we use kind of blindness metaphorically for lack of knowledge. They don't know where the friends or the seekers are. And they also don't know what's going on. And maybe they also don't know kind of what they've done and what position they're in. And again, if we're looking at this psychological reading of withdrawal, you know, you've made the wrong decision. You don't know what's going on in the outside world. And that has become a kind of cocoon for you, that you are taking refuge in your isolation. Again, we have the tension of these kind of different clauses. The caesura here, we've got the assonance, someone stumbles, mutters, and they're moving closer, words and laughter scuffle. It all seems to be kind of slightly erratic and risky. Hang on, that it's building up and building up and building up, but then you get this very simple and they're gone. I mean to cross that out, meant to underline it, but don't come out just yet. Okay, it's kind of, it's still not safe. Again, risk and you know, very simple language leading up to that caesura. They'll try the lane again, that same as above, that kind of possibility created by the line break, and then the greenhouse and back here again. Now we start to realize that there is a kind of rhyme scheme going on of sorts, that we've got a lot of full rhyme, the out and shout and door before, lane again, but we've all, and those full rhymes kind of imbue a kind of confidence and a pace, but we've also got some half rhymes like clever and over that kind of just add to that sense of things being disjointed and uncertain. Things are slightly off kilter, slightly unbalanced, especially when, you know, they must be thinking you're very clever as they search all over. The power dynamic there, the relationship is kind of off. It should be a full rhyme if the child is really in charge, but it's not. He thinks he's clever as they search all over, but it doesn't quite match up. His expectations and what's happening reflected in the rhyme. And his assumptions are kind of conditional. They must be thinking, they will be. It's going back to this idea of probably, that he's hiding in his blindness and he can't be certain what's happening, and therefore he's filling in the narrative. As in so often, you know, when we start thinking about what people think of us and what's going on in our absence, you know, if we've chosen not to be somewhere, we are filling in those gaps. We don't know what people are thinking. We don't know what's happening. But here, line 16, they must be thinking you're very clever, getting more puzzled as they search all over. And the speaker sort of seems to revel in the idea of the child, or by implication, your smugness and complacency, as you think they're looking for me, they're missing me, they're going to do this. So again, that psychological reading has got that kind of peak of, I'll show them all about it. But then it changes to become slightly more plaintive and slightly more kind of worrying, that it seems a long time since they went away. Again, that just one line or one sentence, one line, end stopped, is kind of now a shift in tone and the reflection. And we get, rather than all the kind of things that the people outside are doing, we have this listing of what's happening to the person who's hiding. Your legs are stiff, the cold bites through your coat. So, you know, that kind of zoomorphism, that aggression of the surroundings coming through. And the shed that smelt like the seaside has now become a dark, damp, you know, think of the plosives and the harsh kind of K there. Smell of sand moves, the sibilance of it kind of insinuating its way into your throat, sort of metaphorically. It stops being this salty dark that was maybe a little bit exciting and starts to become something that is choking you. there's this idea of synesthesia there, that blending of the senses, because the smell, you can feel it in your throat. So it becomes quite a kind of unpleasant metaphor, like the sand is itself alive and starting to kind of close in on you. And the present tense, the whole thing is written in the present tense to give it that sense of immediacy and urgency. And now it's time to let them know that you're the winner. So we've got these kind of two lines, 20 and 21, which are both one sentence, both end stopped, a moment of sort of threat and then a moment of decision being pitted against each other, leading up to three short sentence fragments: push off the sacks and curl and stretch. That's better, exclamation. The irony is it's not better. It's only going to be better for a second. So we've gone from threat to decision, let's get out of here, to action. And then this kind of jubilation and celebration marked by the use of direct speech again, the exclamations, again, the kind of orders, the imperatives, and the kind of, I suppose, the slightly gloating tone, come and own up, I've caught you, I've won, is then very much undercut from line 25 onwards. So the darkening garden watches, so the surroundings are now personified. And darkening has obviously got that metaphorical idea about, loss of light, mystery, jeopardy, risk, kind of also, kind of things getting more oppressive and cynical and maybe aging or so, but that you are being watched, nothing stirs, so nothing moves. And we've got caesura, end stop. We've got the bushes hold their breath, again, that kind of personification with the kind of plosives there, rather. As the sun is gone, and think of all the things that the sun represents in terms of light and hope and warmth. Yes, here you are, but where are they who sought you? And, as a kind of description of a childhood game, I suppose it is that moment where, a little child maybe realizes that they're lost, and that intense panic of, I am by myself, and realizing that you are at risk from the wider world. So we can talk about a movement from innocence to experience as the child realizes that not everything in this garden is exciting and tense, and they can't be in charge all the time, or victorious all the time, or the best all the time. The idea that the setting and by extension, the kind of wider world is just watching and isn't going to help, and provides a kind of sense of threat. And the uncertainty of life that accompanies that. But if we take it as this kind of extended metaphor for psychological isolation and deliberate withdrawal, almost as a tactic of showing people around you, that you're either important, or how good you are, or how much they'll miss you, some sort of emotional or psychological manipulation. This says, well, actually, you ignored everybody when they were looking for you, and now you've come out and said, I need you, where are you, I'm here. They've given up on you. You've repelled everybody for so long that at this point nobody's interested anymore, and they're not coming back to get you, and you are on your own, and it's getting darker. So in that sense, it's really quite a kind of bleak metaphor. It ends on a question, so obviously we've got the uncertainty there, and we never find out who the they is, and certainly they sought you, they were looking for you, and now they are not. So, that idea that we've switched just at the end to an idea that's in the past. They sought you, they're not looking anymore. I hope that helps. If you're doing Edexcel, I would be looking at linking this with kind of childhood. I'd be looking at linking this with individual experience or isolation or so. You could have kind of intensity of a moment. There's all sorts of things you can connect it with, depending on whether you're going to go for kind of childhood or psychological kind of damage almost. Do look up, if you have a strong constitution, do look up A Case of Murder. It's one of those poems that I think used to be done with younger students quite a lot, and I think unsurprisingly has kind of dropped out of the syllabus recently. Okay, take care. Bye now.